Hi, welcome to Seoul Forum. And I heard you have been to Seoul twice. What is your impression this time in Seoul?
My impression of Seoul is actually more for people that I know from South Korea back home in California. And I just know that it's very bright people, well educated. From what I'm hearing at the Seoul Forum, it's very clear that economy is very favorable towards a shift in this direction. And, I think that's just well known.
Okay, next question. I know you have emphasized the fun.
Yes.
Fun management
Of using technology. Using technology is difficult enough, but it should be pleasant. Pleasant, yes. You should feel that, wow, I just did some powerful things easily. I had a thought, and I didn't have to fight to figure out how to do it. It should be very intuitive, something that occurs to you naturally. And, of course, Apple Computer has been about that from the start.
I heard that you always carry 3 or 4 smartphones. What do you have with you now?
I have actually 3 of the new iPhone 4s. I have a Palm Pre, which also serves as a mobile hotspot, creating its own Wi-Fi. And I have an HTC Incredible. And then I have a couple other devices that just get me internet wherever I go.
Oh, so iPhone 4 is the best for you?
Yes, it is. Oh, absolutely. But I try to judge things objectively. And I find good points about one, good points about another, good points about a third. So I might have 4 different smartphones, and they're all good. And I wish I could have all the good things in one. But the reason I like the iPhone now is that it is just the easiest to use and not make mistakes and get done what I want to do. A lot of the other phones, a lot of the other companies besides Apple make products that you have to remember too many steps. Too many steps or special buttons that do a certain thing. And no, I like a safe, easy world.
And iPhone 4 is the funniest, right?
The iPhone 4 is the most fun. Well, it's the most pleasant to use, except I'm going to say the iPad, a larger version of our iPhones. Our iPad tablet is even more fun to use. Just there's something about my muscles that say this is fun.
Have you brought your iPad to Korea?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Really? What did you do last night with it?
I didn't use the iPad last night. I didn't use my phones except for voice phone calls because I also have a computer. So my computer has a keyboard that's better for my older fingers. Okay. Did a lot of email.
Okay.
Hours every day.
You're busy. So, have you used Korean smartphones like Samsung's Galaxy S?
The Galaxy S is new in the States, and it's one of those prominent ones. When prominent products like that come out, eventually I buy them and then use them. I actually make my main phone number a different phone than an iPhone, so I am forced to use it. And if I last more than one day, I try to use it for 2 weeks at least. So I really know how well it works. I don't have a Galaxy S yet.
Between Android OS and iOS 4, which one is better to you?
iOS 4 from Apple is far superior to Android to me. At first, I liked a lot of things that were built into Android. The voice recognition, the noise canceling of my Nexus 1 phone was great. I still like to just speak things. Navigate to John's hardware store in Campbell. And it gets the wording right. And no matter how you say it, it works like a Google search. It's very robust. So I like things about the Android phone. But I'm finding more and more things crash, applications crash, the operating system crashes, gives me messages. Difficult to understand where things are. It doesn't look pretty on the screen. More and more, and I'm starting to feel it's a little bit like Windows, where Windows had to be kind of a lousy neutral operating system because it's so many different hardware vendors put out different equipment, all on the same underlying platform. The platform has to be very neutral. It can't be very special for any one of them. And that was a problem that Android's going to have, and I'm seeing it start.
So evolving. right? Android OS.
Android is evolving. Matter of fact, the key person behind Android is a very, very good friend of mine. I was on his board for some other phone products, and he's a good person. He's a great person and would do everything possible to make it right. But being open is going to hurt it too, because there'll be so many variations of the one platform. You won't know what you're writing an app for. Which one?
And how do you think about Symbian of Nokia and Windows Mobile of Microsoft?
I have had, it's only personal, it's only myself. I've had very bad feelings about Windows Mobile on smartphones, and I just have not enjoyed. The user interface seems very difficult to deal with for me. So I haven't liked it. Symbian I haven't really used much. I've used Nokia phones. Nokia is actually having troubles. They're attributing it to the smartphone market. So they're late to the game, and I think the iPhone has really hit Nokia more than any other smartphone companies. There's also Symbian. I had Symbian on an older. You could call it a smartphone. It did what smartphones did. It accessed the internet and it did your email. And I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was a Sony Ericsson, I think, 807 or something like that. And it was okay then, but it wouldn't live up to today's standards.
Long ago, you picked Google and Yahoo as most innovative companies. In the long term, what would be their profit model? What do you think about it?
Well, I picked Google because Google is very much taking us into that future world of on the cloud, trusting that my data out there is well protected, and they're providing it inexpensively. For example, we've learned that the internet, because it's so open, is almost free to send messages anywhere in the world, to talk to somebody anywhere in the world, video calls anywhere in the world over the internet. And yet the phone companies put blocks like country borders, and they make it extremely expensive to go beyond your own borders. And these are artificial blocks. Google is very much into the open thinking and using the internet in its freest, most open form. I like that. Yahoo, I very much admire their new CEO, Carol Bartz, and her thinking about what's right for the company and her approaches to running a company. I think they're going to be very successful under her.
And how do you see the future of social networking services like Twitter or Facebook? Do you think it's possible for the CEO to make some money from SNS?
Facebook, you could have asked the same question about Google when it came out, because they didn't really have a financial model, a business model. And yet Google is extremely profitable now, and the profits are good and rising even in this global recession. I think the same thinking will apply to both companies like Facebook, and there are others, and Twitter. I'm not the sort of person who really wanted more than my standard email. And these social sites came along. It's a lot of everybody who's a socialite doesn't represent the tech community. We're usually insiders. We're usually reserved. So it's more like a different kind of person. So I didn't jump on the bandwagon early. And I use Twitter, but very rarely. And for Facebook, the only thing I'm getting out of Facebook is when I update my travel plans on a travel site, it automatically notifies Facebook. So all my Facebook followers hear me. And being myself, I have now over 2,000 Facebook followers. But they're not people I know. So I find a difficulty in it that way. I think that that Facebook and Twitter are going to be extremely successful financially. Twitter will continue because it's a good service. I actually like sending short little messages where you don't have to worry about reading things for hours. And when they come back, they're short blips. And I think there's a lot of people nowadays that want short little messages and don't want to spend the time of having to actually interact with somebody live while you're doing it.
Could you introduce me some of future technology, something very important in the future?
Oh, yes.
People rarely know that now.
Oh, yes. It's not a consumer product that you would have in your home, but everything you do on the computer nowadays is coming from other computers on the internet called servers. And there are data centers full of hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of servers. Our life depends on them. Well, they all use storage, millions of hard disks. Now, solid-state chips, NAND flash memory chips, the same ones that were made inexpensive by iPods and iPhones, those chips made by Samsung and a few other companies in the world are now low cost, and they can replace all the racks and racks of hard disks and servers and everything, and basically do the job cleaner with many fewer parts at lower cost. That's an incredible technology. I would predict that in less than 5 years, every server in the world will no longer have expensive high-speed hard disks.
In 5 years?
They will have this type of memory instead, built in to every server. And a lot of home computers will have this kind of technology built in. Already, you have a computer on you. You might have a computer. An iPhone is a computer. And it's based on those kind of chips for memory, not the more expensive DRAM. My laptop, instead of a hard disk, I have NAND flash memory, a solid-state disk built in. And I know a lot of people are going that way, and that's the future. The writing's on the wall.
You make PC, so now we live in internet world. Do you think internet enrich human lives? Some people say internet cause isolation, or sometimes it feels like people is pursue some instant pleasure.
Yes. The internet is associated with isolation because it's so big a part of our lives that we want to give it total focus. And you can give something your total focus, if it's that important, you isolate yourself from other things. That's all it is. Some people are shy. They're not social, outgoing people. They would normally not have very many friends. They're afraid to meet new people. The internet is a way that they meet new people. The internet has opened them up to the social world. Obviously, the internet's allowed us to see that people think and act unfriendly, just like ourselves, no matter where they are in the world, because we all have contact with people in other countries now. So I think the internet has been almost nothing but good in that sense. Some people, you might find a young person totally on the internet, not wanting to talk to other people, not knowing how to handle himself in real life well, but a certain percentage of people would have turned out that way anyway. So it might just be, you'll blame it on the computer use, but it might just be in the person.
So have you ever experienced the kind of situation where you didn't want to meet other people and just wanted to go onto the internet and isolate yourself from the rest of the world?
Yes. I am basically a shy person.
Really?
And I don't like to go out and meet other people, and I have way too busy a life. So whenever I can get away from the parts that I have to do, I just like to be all alone on my computer. You know, maybe at the most my wife present. That's it.
Which companies do you think most innovative these days?
I think almost all the world would actually agree with me that Apple Computer is in the #1 position, and that companies like Microsoft are struggling to find the formulas. A lot of the innovation in the world is attributed to the companies that architect products we use. Today's gadgets have the highest powered computers in the world, you know, more than, you know, the military uses. And, you know, things like smartphone devices. I think Google is very innovative. They have some incredibly smart people there doing incredible programming to make the web seem like it's right on your computer. So moving us towards the cloud, I'd rate Google and Apple #1 and 2 in my mind.
How about Yahoo? Is it still innovative?
I don't use Yahoo enough to know. I think it's going to be successful. I think it's going to come out being innovative. It went through a bad time, but I'm not close enough to comment.
So when you co-founded the Apple company, did you have any confidence that you would change the world?
When we started Apple, we had so little money, we didn't think we would, how could you go that far? We had very simple plans. We felt that someday there would be a computer in every home. It would be justified. but we had no idea that a computer would ever have enough memory to store a song. You see, so today's world of computing is very different than what we started with. Also, even if you believe that your company has a great product, and maybe everyone in the world will buy it, and it'll be in every home, even then, you don't really have an idea of what that hugeness really means. It's almost scary now how important Apple is to the world.
It might be a little sensitive question, but what if you come back to Apple? What would you like to do? And I think you could show us some devices lots more cooler than iPhone or iPad.
Actually, I would try to put into my work there as the philosophies that have made what I see in studying Apple products as they exist now. A very high importance on design, what you can fit into a smaller shape. Better products are almost always a tiny bit smaller, tiny bit sleeker, and they do a little bit more electronically. And those are manufacturing technologies. I'm an electronic designer. It's not in my sphere. A lot of it's software, and I was more a hardware person, but today's how machines work are software. But I would say, what have I enjoyed? What has been pleasant to me and seemed human, and what hasn't? Also, user interface is very, very important to me in my judging of all products. I would look at an Apple product, maybe an iPhone, and I might pick out a word like contact list. Why do you call it a contact list? Why don't you just call it people? Put a face on it. And when I scroll over it, maybe all of a sudden a bunch of my friends pop up, my most important friends. I would try to make it even more human and close to me as a real person than it is. But I would try to think of ways to do that and make suggestions and then talk with other people and hopefully find the smartest, coolest people to come up with all the ideas together.
Okay. Don't you miss the time when you and Jobs assembling computers in his garage?
Actually, we assembled computers. It was we didn't do any assembly in the garage.
Really?
We didn't do any business in the garage. We didn't have a phone in the garage. We didn't build a single computer in the garage. They were made in a company somewhere else. But the garage was our front. People would come and visit us on one little table we had in the garage, because you have to work in your house somewhere. So the garage was us, but we didn't really do like a company does, first of all. But those days were the best days of my life, but I'm not a person that looks back and misses them. Wow, what if you could do it again? That would be only a reason to make yourself feel unhappy about where you are today. So I don't think that way.
You're now working as a chief scientist of Fusion.io?
Yes, Fusion.io, and the reason I joined that company is I don't really have time to be a full-time worker there, but Fusion.io, in their thinking about the right way to make an electronic product, used a lot of the same thinking that I used back when I developed the Apple computers, the early Apple computers. They used the right trade-offs to make a product work better, cost less, be more efficient, and those things weren't obvious. So I admired their engineering, the founders' brilliance, thinking out the solutions the right way, and even if they pay me nothing, I am a huge supporter of them just for having done things the right way.
So is it funny?
Funny? There's nothing fun. It's fun to work there. It's not funny. Funny would mean yes, it is. Oh yeah, very fun. A lot of great people in the company, and a lot of the people, the executives at Fusion.io, are fun people actually. They're light, they smile, they listen as much as they talk. It's a great company right now.
Okay. When starting Wheels of Zeus, was
Yes.
said like this: my vision in starting this company was to create technologies that would be helpful to people's everyday lives. So what does this mean?
Well, it means I wanted to create consumer products that would sell very inexpensively, easy to buy, easy to use, and they were location devices. And I wanted to be able to put one on my dog and not have to charge the battery every night and let the dog go out for many months and be able to, if the dog ever gets out of the house somehow, it would instantly call me on my cell phone and show me where the dog is and lead me to it. I wanted to build products that I could put in my glove compartment of my car and always find my car. If I parked it somewhere far away or if somebody stole it, I could find it. And it turned out to be a very hard task to make things small, low enough power, and work as well, have enough of the capabilities. And I didn't meet my goals.
Okay. So there's some personal questions to you.
Sure.
You're wearing the watch. You're still wearing this watch. Can you show?
Oh, yeah.
The camera?
My watch, when I turn my wrist to see the time, it displays the hours and then the minutes. And it's using old vacuum tubes where our electronic technology started, and those vacuum tubes are running on 140 volts. They represent the old days, the high-powered days. But the reason I like this watch is not because it's retro or geek. I like the watch because it tells me the time the way I want. Nice big letters, nice big numbers, the order my brain thinks them. 11, 15. It's the order I would speak the time.
Where did you get it?
I found it online. I looked it up, I Googled it, and I Googled Nixie Tube watch. I found it. And one gentleman makes these watches in Tucson, Arizona, and sells them online.
Really? How much?
$400. Which, for handmade, he solders it together himself. Handmade in America, that's a low price.
Okay. So, what kind of application do you usually use on your iPhone?
On my iPhone, I travel a lot, so I use TripIt.com. It's a travel service that tells me all my gate information. It pushes information that notifies me of flight delays. I also use, when I land in another country, I take a taxi ride and I have to know how much do you tip the people like taxi drivers. So I have a program that tells me the rules for every country. I have a program that wherever I go tells me if any of my favorite groups are playing in concert there. I have apps that watch my television set at home, Slingbox. I have CNN News app, which is a very, very good news source app. And I have a few favorite games. I have some guitar tuning programs. I have probably purchased 1,000 apps, but I only carry about maybe 100 of them on my phone because some of them just weren't worth it. There are better ones. I test a lot of apps and see which ones are better than others. I have apps that help me select movies. So I find it just so easy. Wherever I am, I just pull up my iPhone to get the answer. I don't have to phone somebody. I don't have to be at home with my computer. The apps have changed my life more than I ever thought they would.
You taught students for 8 years, and you often mention education. What made you so interested in education?
My father, when I was very young, inspired me with how important education was to our future. And I told him I wanted to be an engineer first and a 5th grade teacher, 10-year-old kids second. And at a very early age, I decided that. And I always felt that teachers were so important. And when I was in college and I would take psychology courses, I paid attention to any aspects in the book that had to do with child development. And I started realizing that mind development is a lot like a computer. And that was my other big interest. So eventually I lucked out and I got the chance to teach voluntarily. And what I did was I taught the students to take whatever they were learning in class and to do their homework and make it look better by using a computer. That was my main goal. And I would teach them 200 hours a year. Extensive classes. I got to where I was teaching 7 days a week. Different levels of students. It was something I'd wanted to do my whole life, and I enjoyed doing it for 8 years. I don't want to go back to it. I've kind of done it. I've done my fair share.
So you have achieved so many things. And what are your future goals?
My future goals. Well, I still want to get 750,000 points on Game Boy Tetris. I don't have any strong future goals. I certainly look forward to things in the future, new great products. I really want to have a product that acts very much like a human being in my life. We get closer and closer. I look forward to normal things like grandchildren. I don't have any specific goals or plans at the moment. I want to make my company Fusion.io as successful as it can possibly be, a huge success in the world. And I have one little personal goal. I want to take sales training and actually go to a customer, maybe eBay, and actually myself make a sales of our product, do all the computer sales work and get all the entries in. I want to actually complete a sale myself. It's a personal goal because I feel it's very important to know the consumer who's buying your product, what their issues are, what they ask, what they want.
Okay, there's a last question. Your IQ was measured 200 when you were a teenager, right?
No, when I was probably about 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old, very young.
So, I think you're a very smart person, but what do you think about pros and cons of being smart? And don't you feel lonely sometimes?
No. I've known a lot of extremely smart people in schools. They became friends of mine. Yes, and they usually didn't think the teachers were smart. They didn't like school. And I always thought my teachers were smart. I always liked school. I want to be more of a normal person that fits in the middle. I didn't want to be that super special person. I didn't try to skip grades in school. And so I tried to deny it. But I want to use my intelligence for really good things, like being creative, being able to think differently than other people, but not trying to. I don't espouse it. I don't show it off. And I don't act intelligent now. I just believe I was intelligent. I know I was very intelligent designing Apple computers, but I don't think I'm that intelligent anymore.